Welcome to the Leadership We Need Now, a space where we talk about kind, caring, and compassionate leadership. I'm Stacey Dye, and I've been a nonprofit director, an executive coach, and a strategist for over 20 years. And today I want to talk about a leadership rebellion. And I'm really not afraid of using that word, but I think it's necessary. We need to move as far away from the leadership styles that we've been taught and told will help manage a system or an organization or a project and move towards this clearer, kinder, courageous type of leadership where we have difficult conversations, we have multiple people contributing, we have a more shared level of power and responsibility, and we can move towards that future that we're all looking for. Well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us, where we can feel that we can feel, we can move in a certain way where people are important, where people are a priority in the work that we do, whatever that is, whether that's running a small business, whether that's running a nonprofit, whether that's managing your kids' baseball team. At some point in time, we need to think about people. We need to think about what's best for people, whether that's a political arena, whether that's an organizational area. And in order to do that, we need a rebellion. We need to be able to support and build leaders in a way that is thinking about the whole and not just the few. And so this idea of traditional leadership with carrot and stick, you beat them into compliance, or you hold a bonus or a few extra days off ahead of them and they will do things, is very dated, and it's very outdated, to be honest. The future is we're looking at um, people power. We're looking at building something that people can utilize and enjoy. And so when I think about the stuff that I'm doing, although it's kind of very vanilla in that way, this is a rebellion. This is saying what is happening is not working. How do we together create a different reality? How do we, maybe me just speaking about these things gives us the opportunity to have these conversations, but it isn't about me standing in front and saying this is a movement, but me saying, listen, isn't this interesting? Doesn't this bother you? Do you think we could do this? And having other people stand up and stand forward and do that together is really how we need to move forward in the world, in my view. And I think that when I think about tips and tools for how to do that, how to transition or how to change into a different leadership style, a lot of times those things happen because of a crisis, or because you change jobs, or because you have this major awakening. If it doesn't have to be that extreme, I think let's not make it that extreme. Let's make it that we try to do things better every day, that we try to understand ourselves better, that we try to understand the people we work with, that we work for, that we, are our customers, are our clients, trying to understand them better so that we can do the work better, so that we can be better, listening and trying to understand and seeking to understand versus seeking to be understood is a huge change in leadership styles. And I think that tips for how to form this rebellion is finding each other, things like creating content that people resonate with, that people understand, or that people connect to, is really important. And I think that even though this is my way of stepping forward, I do think that this is the way of the future for people who are doing really good work, ways to connect, ways for people to understand what you're doing, ways for you to tell your story, um, so that anyone could hear. There's very limited boundaries when it comes to the internet. It's this kind of equalizing force where if we can figure out, you know, the algorithms and the digital marketing and all those things that are relatively new to some of us, um, we can start to build communities, start to build connections, start to build a movement where we're not just thinking about how to get profits or how to make more money or how to, you know, get more funding. We're thinking about how do we make sure that our employees stay? How do we make sure that they're happy? How do we make sure that they're healthy? How do we make sure that our clients are getting the services they need, or that our customers are happy with our product and our services? How do we think about that in a different way where we become very people focused and not production focused, or not uh, profit focused? And that's difficult because um, in order to be able to do all those things, you have to be paid a living wage. You have to, do all those things that are important to have stability to do the good work. And so I am certainly not telling him, actually telling you the opposite, that you should volunteer or that you should do all those things for free. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that as we go into this, we need to think about this bigger picture of how do we pay people well? How do we make sure that their standard of living is high, that they can be stabilized at home with situations that we can control? Um, and I think this rebellion in leadership, this conversation about who we want to be next, is so important because we're so used to, I mean, I live in West Virginia. I'm used to shit rolling downhill. I use all these phrases to my friends. I apologize to those that don't really know me in real life because this is how I do talk. They strangle us and blame us for dying, those types of things. And so if we don't stand up and if we don't say, listen, I don't want to be at the bottom anymore. Listen, I have a lot to offer and I can provide that, but it is of value. If we don't start to have conversations when we are in charge or when we are leading something about having healthy conflict or having mutual support for each other, and finding ways to mentor and support others, if we don't find ways and strategies to have a healthy leadership system, we are going to get more cruel, more individualized, more um, just we're going to get more of the same type of leaders that we have now, whether that's in a company, whether that's in an organization, whether that's politically. And so if we don't have this rebellion where we think we deserve more, we have contributed so much, we do contribute so much, and that needs to be seen in a different way. We're not just here to create, to share intellectual property, to be worked to death, to be so stressed out, to be so overwhelmed. That is not what we were put on earth for. And so if we don't have this change in the way we think, the way we talk about things, the way we share, the way we communicate, then we're going to be stuck with more of the same. This type of cruel, top down, patriarchal kind of leadership. And so in my tools, tips, steps that I would give, I would definitely say find your people. Find people who are talking about the same thing, who are talking about fair wages, making sure that we do have conversations about what the the actual salary should be, not just because we can get somebody cheap, but because they are worth what we can afford to pay them. And if they can't work for that, then it's it's perfectly okay and understandable. I think that when we also start to talk about ways we want to move forward, we think about that together, that we think about how we can partner, how we can build relationships, how we can look at each other's strengths and weaknesses and really say, this is where I'm really great, but this is where I'm really struggling. And this seems to matter a lot right now. Could you help? Asking for help when you need it. And again, being able to tell your story, being able to communicate in a different way, in a way that I'm trying to communicate here, whether that's YouTube, whether that's on social media, whether that's creating content that you want to tell your story, is going to be so important to whatever rebellion we have, because we have to work together. There's more of us than there are of them. And if we're going to start to consistently just take what we're given and kind of have to be happy about it, then we're going to be stuck with more of what we have. And so when I talk about rebellion, when I talk about new leadership for the future and the future, the leadership we need now, this is what I mean. I mean, this is a start of a conversation. This isn't an end. This is, how do we get excited? How do we get energized? How do we get connected? How do we build community so that we can not only be able to move ourselves forward, but move all of us forward? How do we share, in the opportunities and the resources as we think about the future that we want? And so for me, it is rebellion. To other people it might just be common sense. To me it's kind of common sense too, but rebellion feels like a better word for this. And so in this rebellion, I just want you to kind of understand that it's about having new conversations, about finding your people, about building consensus, building partnership, building coalitions and relationships so that we can build and lead the way the future needs us to. So I appreciate all of you and taking the time to check this out and listen and comment, share. Please subscribe. It's important to the message and the work that we're doing that people can see and people can understand that we're not just in here not thinking about this stuff. We're trying to fight the fight too. So thank you.